So, my name is Christopher Mogul, and I am 15 years old. For as long as I can remember, I have loved and been fascinated with airplanes. And when I was very young, I decided I wanted to become an aerospace engineer designing and building airplanes. I could stand up here for hours and talk to you all about airplanes, but you can ask any member of my class and they'll tell you how annoying it is, so I'll spare you. Anyway, so as I have grown and matured, my fascination and love for airplanes has also grown. However, it has now migrated to the engines, especially the combustion chambers of the engines, and now I am fairly certain when I'm an adult I will design new engines. So now on the topic of teenagers. A teenager to me is far more than just a period of time that someone goes through as defined in the dictionary. To me, it is a time of tremendous mental, physical, and emotional growth that exposes the child to the outside world and opens their imagination to the possible fields that they would like to go into as they are an adult. Well, I definitely have the second part covered. However, airplanes aren't the only things that interest me. Over the past few years, another thing that has really interested me are questions that cannot be answered, especially whether the universe is infinite or if it is finite. Well, it is definitely an interesting question. Many people have their own theories on the matter. However, to really answer this question, let's take it back to the beginning and define the universe. Well, the dictionary defines the universe as all existing matter and space as a whole. So this would mean all the stars, the nebulas, all other pieces of debris as all part of one big thing. And it is generally accepted that the universe is infinite. However, it is also generally accepted that the universe is expanding. So something that is constantly expanding would have to be finite. Sure, and 5 seconds later, it will be much bigger. However, it would still be finite. So this would lead someone to believe that, okay, the universe is indeed finite. However, if you were to think this, one would naturally ask, okay, well, what comes after that finite endpoint? And you see, here's where I think we have a problem. The fact that we logically ask the question about what comes after would lead someone to believe that it's infinite, and it really befuddles our brain. And it's not really our fault. It's not that we're stupid, but more so, and I'm quoting my friend Elias Eskind when he says our puny little ape brains just can't handle it. Well, it's certainly a funny statement, however, I do believe it is true. I don't think our brains have evolved enough to be able to understand or process such hard information. So take a calculator, for example. If you plug in a very, very large multiplication problem on that calculator, you know for a fact there is an answer to that question. However, the calculator says error, or in this case, I don't know. It's not the calculator's fault. It's just not programmed to be able to handle such a large equation, and I feel the same is true for our brains. So sad as it is, as a result of this, even if God knew all the answers to these questions, and he was in front of us and for some reason decided to give us a lecture on it, I think that everyone in the world afterwards would be more confused than when they started. So as a result of this, nobody truly knows if the universe is infinite or if it is finite, but that does not mean people haven't thought about it. For instance, a few nights ago, I was eating dinner, and I just couldn't stop thinking about stars. I don't know why, I just couldn't. And I also started thinking, okay, well, how could something be infinite? All right, it just doesn't make sense in my mind. How could something keep on going? And then a light bulb went off in my head. I said, okay, take Alpha Centauri. Alpha Centauri is the closest star to our solar system. It is 4.4 light years away. And so what that means is that the light emitted off of Alpha Centauri took 4.4 years to get to us. So if you're looking out in the cosmos and you look at Alpha Centauri, you're actually seeing it from 4.4 years in the past. So with this in mind, let's take Alpha Centauri again. It's 4.4 light years from us. That distance, sure, is very, very large. However, it is still finite and calculable. And you can double it to 8.8 light years. It'll be much larger. However, it will still be finite and calculable. And you can continue to double the distance. It will continue to get larger and larger. However, it will still be finite and calculable. So if you just take the definition of infinite, okay, infinite means just keeps on going. So what if you had a star that was infinite miles or light years away from Earth? Would the light emitted off of that star ever get to us? Well, I don't know, but it's certainly an interesting question and something very cool to think about. So really, the only way we would really be able to know is if the universe is infinite or finite. Would it be actually to go to the edge of the universe and just see what was there? However, I do not believe this is possible because of the mirror theory. The mirror theory, I originally heard of it on a show called, on Science Channel on a show called Through the Wormhole. It is just a theory, and its validity is uncertain. However, I do believe it is a very good and sound theory. What the mirror theory states is that our universe is spherical, and that light bends all the way around the universe. So with this in mind, the fact that when you look out into a star, you're seeing it in the past, depending on how far away it is. So take a very, very young Earth. If Earth were still forming, light was emitted off of it, shot out into the cosmos, bent all the way around the universe, back to what you were looking at right now. So if you had a powerful enough telescope and there was no debris nor anything else in the way, you would see a very, very young Earth, or almost like a baby picture. Or in this case, an old man looking in the mirror and seeing a younger version of himself. So it's very, very cool indeed. However, sadly, there's really no way to prove it. We don't have a telescope that is powerful enough to be able to see that distance, and it would be impossible that there'd be no debris nor anything else in the way. However, it's still very, very cool. And the reason you couldn't just go to the edge of the universe and see and get to this point would be the same reason as the around Earth. Around Earth, if you were just to walk in that direction and keep going, and sure, you might have to swim a little bit, but if you continued to go, you would get right back to where you were standing, and same thing for the universe. So since the mirror theory, it would pose the universe is finite, but we still haven't answered the question about what lies beyond. And sure, it is anybody's guess, and your guess is as good as mine, and nobody knows, but that doesn't mean people haven't thought about it. And there are many theories surrounding it. However, there are two in particular that I really, really like, but that doesn't mean I necessarily believe in them. But that would be the brain theory and the multiverse theory. What the brain theory states is that you, me, the lights, everything in our universe is on a plane. And right next to that plane, there's an infinite amount of other planes with other universes on those planes, and these would be the different dimensions. What it states is that we're in our existence, but we could not get to the other plane. And a better way to actually describe this would be by taking a box. A box has 6 sides, so it has 6 planes. And if you were to take a marker, all right, and draw lines on every side of the box, these lines being us, like let's say this one is us, this would be you, me, everything, you can see that since they're on different planes, they will never intersect. But would this be possible? Well, in theory, you could bend one of the planes and simply then be able to jump across the other side. However, it is much easier said than done. And the only way in my mind that this would be possible would be with a wormhole. What a wormhole is it is a giant teleporter that can teleport you to any place in the galaxy, or in this case, the different dimension. So, but also that is even easier said than done because we don't know how to make one. We don't even know if they exist. But I chose this picture of it because it shows 2 planes. One of these planes you could say was us, and it has a wormhole connecting the 2, so you'd be able to just slip right across. So this is the brain theory, and there's another theory called the multiverse theory that I also really do like and think is very cool. What the multiverse theory states is that outside of our universe, in the empty space, there is an infinite amount of other universes. Or another way you could think about this would be from in one of the Men in Black movies, I don't remember which one was in the series, it depicts a cat named Orion. And on Orion's collar, he has our universe, and that there are other cats running around with other universes on their collars. Or you could always say that there's a 20% chance that we're all in a video game, but that's a whole other subject for a whole other time. So we can't just go to, we can't just go to see if there is the edge of the universe. However, in theory, we could if there was just an end to it. Because if the universe were indeed finite, intergalactic travel would be possible. And I know for one, I would love to go visit ET as much as the next guy. However, it is much easier said than done. Because The universe is like a giant road, with many police officers on that road that will not allow you to speed. The police officers being the laws of physics, and the speed limit being the speed of light in a vacuum. Now, don't get me wrong, the speed of light in a vacuum is freakishly fast, but the universe is so gigantic that even if we were on like a direct route to a very, very close planet that we think had life on it, those astronauts would have to pretty much die multiple times over before they finally arrived. So we've reached a little bit of a dilemma. However, maybe one day we could create an immortal human that could travel such a distance, excuse me, that could travel such a distance, or perhaps we could achieve a state called cryptobiosis, which is a sleeping state where the body is neither dead nor alive. They're in an in-between state, so they can make very, very long travels of a period of time in a sleep. Or another way you could think about this would be me in the morning. So, so without this, we could not make intergalactic travel. However, there is another alternative. Wormholes, once again. Wormholes are giant teleporters. They could teleport you to any place in the galaxy. But we don't know how to make one. Some scientists speculate that they're in the inside of black holes, but once again, the other one is the nearest one would be very, very far away, and we don't even know if they exist. So, as a result of this, intergalactic travel will have to wait. However, in theory, it is possible to break the speed of light. We just don't know what would happen. Perhaps you would get a speeding ticket and every atom in your body would cease to exist, or perhaps nothing would happen at all. We really don't know. However, what we do know is that in certain materials, light speed is actually reduced, such as water. So, astronauts in outer space have actually complained about seeing very big white flashes in the cytoplasm within the astronauts' eyes. NASA scientists deduced that the white flashes were actually particles moving faster than the speed of light in the cytoplasm within the astronauts' eyes. So, if you were able to break the speed of light, well, what would happen with the white flash? How could you think of this? Well, another way you could think of this would be with a sonic boom. When something is going supersonic, you can no longer hear the engines behind you. You can hear yourself and the person behind you because you're in a small closed canopy. However, you can no longer hear the engines. And so what happens when you break a sonic boom? When you break the sound barrier, a sonic boom happens. When you break light speed, a white flash happens. So if you were going the speed of light, well, what would you see? I always thought you would not be able to see anything at all. I thought you would completely lose your sense of seeing, and that is because when you're going supersonic, you can no longer hear the engines. You can hear your friend and yourself behind you, but that's because the air in your canopy isn't really moving, but you can no longer hear the engines or anything else outside. So if you're breaking the speed of light, why should you be able to see? So that's what I always thought. However, many scientists and in the classic movie always thought your vision would greatly expand as the stars start to whoosh right by you. So I always disagreed. However, I read an article on space.com the other day that said that now some scientists were starting to believe what I was saying, that you wouldn't be able to see anything at all. So like, yay, score one for Christopher. Anyway, so as a result of this, intergalactic travel isn't possible. We can't just go to the edge of the universe to see what is there, and nobody really knows if the universe is infinite or finite. Anybody's guess is as good as another's, and really, there's really no reason you shouldn't be able to think about it because no one can really say you're wrong. There's very limited information about this. We don't really know. But what I do know is that I really, really want to find out. The spark of curiosity has been ignited inside me, and I hope some of you also want to figure it out too. However, I know I can't do it alone. Remember, there is no right or wrong time to start thinking. You just have to start thinking. Thank you.